Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sip and Spill. I'm Kareen, the founder of Pttrn, and we are so excited to be here today to talk about all things business and spirituality and money. This is Brenda, La Bruja Brenda. She is one of our amazing practitioners. She does tarot, astrology, and
Makeup.
makeup, and has been in the game for like 5 years now, right?
Yes, officially 5 years, but lifelong witch for sure.
So we're going to get into all the details of where we're at right now, how things are flowing. I get into like the nitty-gritty of spirituality and money because I feel like now is the time to start exploring some of those things. Like we are in such an era of not continuing to do the norm, not sticking with corporate, not being in a job that doesn't make us happy just because it's what we're supposed to do. And as living spiritual practitioners, I think we can really talk about the nitty gritty details that are not as fun.
Yeah. And also, being this is for everyone, but being millennials as I think the bulk of this audience and even the older Gen Zs and maybe even some of the younger like Gen X's that are in our community can really relate to the idea of growing up in a society that's had multiple financial crises. The fact that I can say crisis plural is like just shows that. But also astrologically, how we can see it in our charts. It's actually a marker in our charts that we would be defined by the need to adapt from very traditional structures in society for how to make your money, how to be respected in society, and how to heal wounds around scarcity and lack, or even around abundance, and how we're seeing it in our social lives right now.
So why don't you tell
Oh,
us a little bit about yourself, B?
oh my God, introductions. Okay, let's get into this. Well, hi, hola, soy La Bruja Brenda. I am also known as the witch in English. So I wanted to make that part of my title purposefully because as a Latina first gen American, there's still a big stigma around the word witch and bruja. Like it's not just like it could be trendy for a lot of people right now, but in Hispanic culture, it's traditionally been a really negative term. And so for me, part of my healing journey and professional journey has been taking on the identity of La Bruja Brenda. I'm also a big fan of alliteration. So traditionally, I would have described myself as an eclectic practitioner, a solitary practitioner, but in being vocal around my spiritual practices, which have been for everything from Wicca to, dabbling in um, more varied practices. I've been learning a lot more about Caribbean practices as also a half Puerto Rican woman, and trying to figure out what I practice myself individually. I've actually been able to heal a lot of wounds around the witch wound in my Colombian family, and realizing that there's a lot of spirituality and brujeria in my family of origin. So I can now say I'm actually a hereditary witch, which is something that I didn't go into looking for that and trying to find my own path specifically, but realizing that by choosing to express myself professionally in this path, I've allowed a lot of room for other parts of my family and my community to take up space in their witchiness as well.
That is so powerful. And I think we forget, like, it's such a privilege that we can even refer to ourselves as witches in this day and age. Like, sometimes I get frustrated at the limitations around calling ourselves a witch
Mm-hmm.
because, there's a lot of fear around it. And when we had our studio, I had like this beaded bracelet. It was super cute. It was like a friendship style bracelet
Hmm.
and it said Bruja on it. And everybody came in, they touched it, and they quickly put it down. And they were like,
Mm.
they were afraid.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are you a witch?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, you know, I don't go around calling myself that, but yeah, it is in my practice. I all of the things that are considered to be witchy, I do enjoy doing, and it's a part of my ritual and my routine. And they were like, what? What do you mean? And they were like
Mhm.
so fascinated, but also equally afraid.
Of course, there's so much fear around the unknown. And I've spent most of my life, like, I've been a practitioner probably since I was 13. Of course, a very witchy number. But before that, I feel like I was first introduced from a super young age, just in being a very spiritual, like, sensitive child, right? Like, being aware of, energies, and like reading the room, but not being aware that I'm reading the room, right? And feeling things that, like, we can't see, right? And of course, I grew up on Walter Mercado, so like I feel like somehow I must have, like, unconsciously learned the very basics of astrology just by watching him, and that was socially acceptable, which is just
So
this, like,
true.
flamboyant astrologer, but yet we're so, like, religious and so, like, like, restricted in our daily lives. And I think subconsciously I must have somehow internalized that, like, there's a balance to this. Or maybe not balance, but there's a way to walk this where, like, the more out there you are, somewhere there will be an acceptance. And I don't even think I knew that until, like, recently, where, like, for me it was like a language that I did feel a lot of comfort in, but also a lot of shame in, because I didn't know how it would be received. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I'm also a Scorpio moon, so I'm incredibly secretive and, like, very protective of the things I love. So, you know, it took me many years to, like, own this out loud. And we'll get into it, but, like, it was really my Saturn return in 2020 was when it was exact. But in the years leading up to it, because it takes a while for, even within, like, whenever Saturn is in the same sign of your sign, it still takes a while within those 2.5 years to get to the return. And sometimes you get it like 3 times if you have a retrograde. So it's a 2.5 year period. That's a lot of life lessons of maturity. And that's when I committed to my profession of, like, if I have to work until my bones give out, which is very Saturn and Capricorn, but it's very Saturn in general. I want it to be helping people. And I was already a professional makeup artist, but I decided that I also wanted to be an astrologer and a tarot reader, and I wanted to help people. And I was like, if I got to work and grind and hustle, let it be doing something useful my way. That's not to take away from essential workers and lawyers and doctors that are all very important things, but that's not my gift. That's not what I have to bring into this experience. So why am I going to hold myself back from something that can help one other person? And that's all I look at, is just the one. And if it multiplies, amazing. But if it helped you go from having, like, a really bad day to, like, maybe I can make one thing to change tomorrow or today, I've won.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think like astrology and tarot can be things where people might look down on it and think like, why does that help you? What you should I think a lot of what I hear from external community who may not really understand spirituality, they're like, you should be able to find that within yourself. The answers are within you. If you're looking to other people, it's not the right approach. But I think you said it so perfectly. It's like sometimes you just need to hear the right words.
I think the irony in that is the fact that, like, it's not from other people, babe. Like,
Right.
when I'm doing a tarot reading, like, that's your energy. That's your spirit team. That's your God, angels, spirit, ancestors, whatever you resonate personally with. That's what I'm picking up on. And I'm just relaying the message. Right. And so a lot of times, more times than not, I'm getting someone being like, oh my God, I was thinking this, or this makes sense of something I thought of, but you didn't give yourself permission.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm here, to be the external validation of something that was already in you. You were already thinking this, and you just need some sign, someone outside of you to be like, it's okay to go with this gut feeling, or to go with this, this, like, out of left field, but, like, necessary for my soul next step, right? Or just, what, maybe I should trust myself more and not have to, like, move heaven and earth just to make someone want to be with me when I'm in a relationship that I have anxious attachment around. right? Or with astrology, it gives us permission, because I'm looking at your chart. I'm not making up where the things are in the sky, and I'm showing where the weather is. So if I'm telling you, as your like cosmic forecaster, that you're very likely to have some rain this week, are you gonna wear your like shortest shorts and your like most your suede heels to like get ruined in the rain? No, you'll prepare. And if you don't, you'll also probably be like, oh, that was my choice to wear these suede boots in, the rain, and I have to assume the consequences, right? So it's not me trying to like tell you what I want for you. It's using your own personal cosmic blueprint and the weather to tell you why certain things are probably happening right now, or what things have you gone through, and really tracking patterns to see how can you handle challenges or even good things in the coming days, weeks, months, years, right? It's if we can go to counseling, if we can go to coaching and not be like, oh my God, this person is trying to like, change me who I am. They're trying to help me with what I got going on. Why can't we look at spiritual practitioners in a similar way?
100%. I love the analogy of using it as like the weather,
Mm-hmm.
because it makes perfect sense.
Cosmic weather girl.
This week
I
I
love
did
it.
not check the weather, and I was in the middle of the city looking like a wet rat because I was not prepared. If I opened my weather app, I would have brought an umbrella.
And you don't then go, oh my God, it's because I did not do this thing, or I didn't make this decision that I'm being punished. But no, you're just like, oh shit, I didn't bring an umbrella that could be useful right now.
Right,
And then you can
exactly.
release the attachment to the moment. You could be frustrated. I'm not saying don't have bad emotions or don't have good emotions when things come up for you, but it's the attachment to certain things staying a certain way, being a certain way, and that you cause them. You react to your circumstances. So what do you have to let yourself experience the emotions and then go from there? Act on what you have at a given moment, as opposed to being like, and this is why nothing works out for me, or I'm not meant to be in a romantic relationship because of what happened when I was a child. Like astrology and tarot, even though they are separate practices, but things that I are very near and dear to me. So I say them as like interchangeable, but like they are practices that can be supportive to an individual's growth, and take what resonates and leave what doesn't, right? Sometimes I will say a message to someone multiple times throughout my time of them being my client, and it will click maybe like 3 years in, and they'll be like, "Oh my God," as if it's the first time I've ever said it. And I'm like, I can't be upset that like I've been telling you this since day 1. Hello. But they needed that time to like let other things transpire or to learn other lessons, or they needed the setup circumstantially to then realize what I'm telling them, or how this is helpful to them, or how maybe changing a behavior is supportive to their goals at that moment, and then it like internalizes.
Mhm.
And so I'm not going to get caught up on when that happens for them, but I'm happy it happens, because astrology and tarot and Reiki and other spiritual practices are a means to an end, which is ideally living a supportive, fulfilled life.